You walk past it every single day. It's sitting right there in your yard, growing along your fence, maybe even poking through the cracks in your sidewalk. You've probably pulled it out a dozen times, tossed it in the trash, or sprayed it with something just to make it go away. But what if I told you that plant, the one you've been fighting with for years, has been quietly trying to help you this whole time? Today we're counting down 5 plants that are growing in American yards right now, and almost nobody knows what they actually do. We're starting at number 5 and working our way down, and I promise you by the time we get to number 1, you're going to look at your yard in a completely different way. Stay with me, because number 2 is the one that genuinely stopped me in my tracks when I learned the truth about it. I want to take you back to a few years ago. I was exhausted all the time. Not the kind of tiredness that a good night's sleep fixes. I mean the deep, dragging kind of exhaustion where you wake up already worn out. My digestion was a mess, my stress levels were through the roof, and I was spending money every month on supplements that I honestly wasn't even sure were doing anything. One afternoon, I was sitting on my back porch just looking at my yard, and my grandmother, she was visiting from out of town. She pointed at a cluster of low-growing leaves near the garden bed and said, "You know what that is, right?" I had no idea. I'd been pulling those things out for 2 years. She told me the name. She told me what her mother used it for. And something clicked in me that afternoon that I can't fully explain. I went inside and started researching. And then I researched more. And then more after that. What I found completely changed how I see the natural world around me. Because it turns out, nature has been incredibly generous with us. We've just stopped paying attention. So, let me share what I've learned, starting with plant number 5. Plant number 5. Dandelion. Okay, I know. I know what you're thinking. Dandelion? Really, Mina? Hear me out. The dandelion is probably the most hated plant in the American lawn. People spend billions, actual billions of dollars every year trying to kill this thing. And the entire time, they're destroying one of the most nutritious, most versatile plants that grows for free in their own backyard. Every single part of the dandelion is useful. The leaves are loaded with vitamins A, C, and K. They've been eaten as food for centuries. You can throw young dandelion leaves right into a salad, and they've got a slightly bitter, peppery flavor that's actually really good. The root has traditionally been used to support liver health and digestion. People have been making dandelion root tea for generations, and modern research is starting to catch up to what those generations already knew. But here's the thing that got me. Dandelion is also a prebiotic. That means it feeds the good bacteria in your gut. And we're learning more and more about how connected gut health is to everything else, your energy, your mood, your immune system. All of it. And this plant just grows. You don't water it. You don't plant it. It just shows up and offers itself to you. That, to me, is wild. Next time you see a dandelion, don't pull it. At least not before you learn what you're actually throwing away. Plant number 4. Plantain. Not the banana. I'm talking about Plantago major, broadleaf plantain. It's a low, flat plant with wide oval leaves and these tall, skinny little seed stalks that shoot up in the middle. You've seen it. It grows in compacted soil, in sidewalk cracks along driveways. It's everywhere. And it has been used as a healing plant for so long that some historians call it one of the oldest medicinal herbs in recorded human use. The leaves of broadleaf plantain contain something called aucubin, which has been studied for its anti-inflammatory properties. Traditionally, people would crush a fresh plantain leaf and press it directly onto a bug bite, a bee sting, a small cut, or a skin irritation. It's been called nature's Band-Aid in a lot of old herbal traditions, and that nickname actually holds up pretty well when you look at how it's been used historically. I'll be honest with you, the first time I tried this myself, I was skeptical. I had a mosquito bite that was driving me crazy, and I just grabbed a plantain leaf from the yard, crushed it between my fingers, and held it on the bite. The relief was fast enough that I stood there for a moment just kind of blinking. Now, I'm not saying this is a replacement for medical treatment. But for everyday minor skin irritations, this plant growing for free in your yard deserves a lot more respect than it gets. Plant number 3. Chickweed. Chickweed is one of those plants that most people just see as a winter weed. It grows low to the ground, it has tiny white star-shaped flowers, and it spreads in a mat-like pattern in cooler weather. Gardeners can't stand it. But chickweed has a history as both a food and a topical herb that goes back hundreds of years. As a food, young chickweed is actually delicious. It's mild, a little grassy, slightly sweet. It works really well in salads or blended into smoothies. It's a good source of vitamin C, calcium, and iron, and in early spring when not much else is growing, it was historically one of the first fresh greens available to people. That's not nothing. That's actually really significant if you think about what food access looked like before grocery stores existed. As a topical herb, chickweed has been used traditionally to soothe irritated, itchy, or inflamed skin. People made poultices and salves from it to apply to rashes, dry patches, and minor skin conditions. Some herbalists still use it this way today. What I love about chickweed is that it shows up when the garden looks bare and dead. It's like this quiet, humble little plant that arrives in the cold and just says, "I'm here. I can help." There's something about that I find genuinely moving. Now, before we get to numbers 2 and 1, the plants coming up next operate on a completely different level. And plant number 1 is probably already growing on your property right now. Most people have walked past it hundreds of times without ever knowing its name. Don't go anywhere. Plant number 2. Mullein. Mullein is a tall, dramatic-looking plant. First-year mullein grows as a rosette of huge, thick, velvety leaves close to the ground. They're soft like felt and can get enormous. Second year, it sends up a tall flowering spike that can reach 6 feet or more. You've seen it on roadsides, in open fields, in disturbed soil. It's striking when you notice it. And the history of mullein as a plant for respiratory support is one of the longest and most consistent in herbal tradition. Indigenous peoples across North America used it. European herbalists documented it for centuries. It has been used across completely separate cultures on different continents for the same purpose, and that kind of cross-cultural consistency tells you something. Mullein leaf has traditionally been used to make a tea that was given to people with coughs, congestion, and respiratory discomfort. The leaves were sometimes also dried and used in smoke blends intended for the lungs. There's a certain irony in that, smoking something for your lungs, but the context in traditional herbalism was very different from cigarettes. Some modern herbal practitioners still work with mullein for respiratory support. The root and the flowers each have their own traditional uses too. Mullein flower oil, for example, has a long history of being used for ear discomfort. When I first really sat down and learned about mullein, I went back and looked at old photos of my grandmother's property. And there in the background of one of them, tall, unmistakable, was a mullein plant growing along her fence line. She probably knew exactly what it was. That thought hit me harder than I expected. Plant number 1. Yarrow. And here we are. Number 1. Yarrow. Achillea millefolium. The name Achillea comes from the Greek myth of Achilles, the warrior. According to the legend, Achilles used yarrow on the battlefield to stop the bleeding wounds of his soldiers. Whether or not that story is literally true, it tells you how ancient and how deep the relationship between humans and this plant actually is. Yarrow is a feathery-leaved plant with flat clusters of tiny white or sometimes pink flowers. It grows in meadows, along roadsides, in open yards. It's beautiful when you look at it closely, but most people just walk right past it. And here's what makes yarrow so extraordinary. It has been used, across virtually every culture that encountered it, as a wound herb. It contains compounds that are studied for their ability to support the body's natural clotting process. It's been used to stop minor bleeding for thousands of years. It's also been used for fever, for digestive support, and as a bitter tonic herb. Some traditional systems used yarrow to bring on a sweat during fevers, which was seen as the body's natural way of clearing illness. Yarrow is also a remarkable garden companion. It attracts beneficial insects, and it has been used in compost because it is said to speed up decomposition. It gives. In every direction, it gives. But what makes yarrow my number 1 above everything else we've talked about today is the story it represents. This is a plant that walked alongside human beings through war and hardship and sickness for thousands of years. It was in the field kit of warriors. It was in the gardens of healers. It was passed down in families, whispered from grandmother to granddaughter, pressed into wound after wound. And now it grows in American yards, unrecognized, uncelebrated, sometimes sprayed with weed killer. That's the story I keep coming back to. That's the thing that drives everything I do on this channel. Here's what I want you to take from today. You are not living in a world that is missing resources. You're living in a world where the resources have always been there, we just stopped learning their names. Every single plant we covered today is something your great-great-grandmother probably would have recognized on sight. She would have known what to do with it. That knowledge was passed down for generations, and somewhere along the way, a lot of it got lost. Not because it stopped being true, not because the plants stopped working, but because we got busy and the world got loud, and we stopped paying attention to what was growing quietly at our feet. That's why I make these videos. Not to tell you to throw away your doctor or your medicine, but to help you rebuild that relationship with the natural world that your ancestors had, because that relationship was real, it was practical, and it made people more self-reliant in a way that I think we genuinely need today. So here's what I want you to do right now. Go outside. Just take a slow walk around your yard or your neighborhood. See if you can spot any of the 5 plants we talked about today. You might be surprised at what you find once you know what you're looking for. And if you want to keep learning, if you want to know not just what these plants are, but how to actually use them, how to grow them, how to make simple preparations at home, then subscribe to this channel. Because this is exactly what we do here every single week. One plant at a time. One step closer to knowing how to take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.